Hi, guys. We are live. Thank you guys for joining me today for our noon chat. We are sticking with the topic of emotional eating. So if you're an emotional eater and you've heard about this training today, I'm so glad that you're here. If you're hopping on, let me know you're here because I'm using StreamYard today. So what happens when I use StreamYard is I can't see you unless you comment and say, hey, this is so-and-so. And then what that does is it also lets others in the group know that we're live and they can come on too. So the more comments, the better. If you're watching this later on and you're catching the replay, hashtag replay, so I can come back and say hello to you too. So definitely say hi and let me know who you are and you're here. What I like to do is keep these coffee chats conversational, and we're sticking with the theme, intuitive eating and am I an emotional eater? So if you're an emotional eater or you struggle with thinking maybe I'm an emotional eater or I find myself in these situations, we're going to talk about food fears. We're going to talk about food rules and food rituals starting out. I think it's important, first of all, to take a look at what foods you're restricting. If you find yourself thinking that you're an emotional eater, so take an assessment of foods that you're restricting in your life. For example, not keeping a certain food in the house. For a lot of people, I mentioned ice cream if you're on my email list, because for most people, I think all women can at some point identify with a pint of Ben and Jerry's after a breakup or something like that. That's what comes to mind. Ice cream, cookies seem to be the culprits a lot of times. Pizza is another one that people say, they feel like they emotionally eat. If this is you, let me know. Say, hey, I can identify with that. Send me an emoji. So it makes sense if you really think about it, because these foods that we deem off limits, right, in our house, then we have it. It's like, oh my God, you don't know when you're going to have it again. So it starts like a binge restrict cycle. So what I mean by this is you restrict this food, then you think about it and you think about it, and maybe you allow yourself to have it, then you beat yourself up, guilt, shame, and you want to get it out of the house. So maybe I can identify with this. I had this happen with Girl Scout cookies. It's Girl Scout time of the year. I used to love Thin Mints, but I would not allow them in my house. And when I did allow myself to have the Thin Mints and they would roll in, I would try to eat as many of them as I can just to get them out of the house or throw them away. I've had people tell me that they bake a big cake or a batch of brownies and then they eat a little bit and then they throw it away. So when we're doing these things, we're enforcing this binge restrict cycle without maybe knowing it. That's what we're doing. So we have this guilt and shame around something because we've done something bad. So we feel like, okay, we have to keep on eating it to get it out of the house or throw it away. And then we have to what? Start a new diet. Find something else that works. So if this is you, I want you to say me in the comments and let me know if you can identify with this. And if this is you, I want you to think about your feelings, because feelings are involved when it is true emotional eating. So just take a tally, just jot down a sheet of paper and jot down feelings, sadness, feelings that you feel, sadness, happiness, angry or frustration, exhaustion, stress, just different emotions that you might feel. So when we write out our core emotions, this will help you kind of assess and dig a little deeper. And you can figure out, what you need to do to support yourself with every single one of these things. So I want to tell you too that food will be used. You will absolutely use food. I'm not saying emotional eating is bad. I think there's this misconception that emotional eating is a bad thing, but I want to just let you know that we all do it. Every single one of us eats emotionally. What we want to do is add some more tools of support into your toolbox. So, for instance, like breakups, they can be really difficult things to go through. And I want you to ask yourself, if you're sad or if you're lonely and you're feeling like eating, the first thing I want you to do is ask yourself, is food really what I want right now? And I want you to really think deep about like food. Sit for a minute, write in a journal if you have one. If you're not a journal writer, call your best friend, talk with somebody, sit for a minute, meditate for a minute, do some deep breathing, pray. All of these are tools that help me when I feel sad, when I feel lonely. The big thing that I do notice with clients when it comes to emotional eating is that we need to have awareness of our emotions. So I see a lot of clients that will disassociate themselves from their feelings and almost feel kind of numb. We're going to be going deeper into this tomorrow night in the Food Confidence Club in our monthly workshop on how to identify if you truly are an emotional eater and where you fall on the spectrum of emotional eating. Because this is a big thing. So, for example, let's say you eat a whole pizza and you don't know why you ate the whole pizza. You just look down and you realize it's gone. You're just on autopilot. And then the next thing you know is the pizza box is just empty. If any of you can relate to this feeling of being on autopilot when you're eating and not really realizing it, just say autopilot in the comments, because we're going to talk through some different aspects of emotional eating in this training today. And if you're just hopping on, say hi and let me know where you're from, or send me an emoji so I can see you and chat with you and answer any questions. Again, if you're watching the replay later, make sure you hashtag replay so I can see you too. All right, so back to the pizza box. So say we're on autopilot and we're just eating. We look down, the box is empty. So I just want you to take a pause for a minute to assess what's going on. So if this is you and this has happened to you before, don't beat yourself up. I know that's easy to do, but the best thing to do is to assess what happened, assess what's going on. Assess, what would have been the best tool for you for this job. If you have feelings of hunger and you've identified like that you're sad, if you've identified that you're frustrated or you're angry, maybe you've identified that you're lonely, maybe you're happy, whatever that feeling is, exhaustion is a big one. I want you to ask yourself, what do I need right now? What is the best tool that I need to take care of this feeling? Is it gonna be pizza? Is pizza going to help me? Maybe you need to revisit, do one of those other things like I suggested above. Those work for me. Again, what I want to do is work with you and find the best tools for you. But do you need to do something else and then come back and revisit the pizza in 15 minutes? We're also trying to figure out if we're really hungry. So that leads us into, am I really hungry? And this is a big part of emotional eating, is understanding your body and being able to tune in. So if you are hungry, y'all, the answer is always going to be you need to eat, right? Maybe there are some things that you can do as well to tap into the sadness or the anger or the frustration. But if you're hungry, you need to eat. So if you're not hungry, so number one is identify if you're hungry or not. And if you're not hungry, then ask yourself some questions, kind of dig deeper, get curious. So what's the best tool that you have in your toolbox that you can use for yourself right now if food isn't going to be the best thing? And this is where I tend to work a lot with clients, because clients that are emotional eaters sometimes don't or haven't put any other tools in their toolbox. And we need to discover some other ways to handle the emotions that they're feeling. So if you're hungry and you've identified that you're hungry, by all means eat, because that's first and foremost. If you're not, let's explore some other options that might be a better fit for you, that might work for you better to deal with, to process those emotions, right? That's a piece of it. It's a lot of trial. It's a lot of error. What works for some doesn't work for others. So if you feel like you struggle with true emotional eating, I want you to, say emotional in the comments. Sometimes what I see is clients go into this deep emotional spiral, and I call it like the spiral down. I'm always working with my clients to try to spiral up and out. When we're down in the downward spiral of emotional eating, sometimes we can't even see through like what's going on, and what other things we might be able to do. So I'd love to brainstorm with you on this. If you feel like you're in that downward spiral, just put emotional in the comments and we can brainstorm on some things. Leave me a comment below. I mean, others might be watching this later in the replay, and there might be some things that, like, what do you like to do for fun? I mean, that's a great place to start, right? If your best friend called you up and she was feeling sad or she was feeling really lonely, I want you to think about how you would help her, because this is a huge component of emotional eating, is finding compassion for yourself. Let's try some things for you too. If you're an emotional eater, let's peel back the layers of the onion and find something that works. I think this is just a big thing a lot of us are going through right now. We're in a pandemic. We've come off a hard year, and we've all been fighting millions of emotions and trying to navigate this and figure out how to navigate this with or without food. How do you navigate those emotions? When do you use food? When do you not use food? I see a lot of misinterpretation when it comes to people saying they're emotional eaters. And so we're going to talk about this in depth tomorrow night in our workshop in the Food Confidence Club, how to identify if you're truly an emotional eater. Are you an emotional eater? Are you eating and having emotions? Because there's two totally different things, and there's a spectrum of emotionally eating. There's a way of emotionally eating and connecting with your emotions that feels really good, that is really good for you. And then there's a dangerous point on the scale. There's a tipping point where it gets really bad. And the further you go down that scale, so we just have to figure out, where are you? Are you truly an emotional eater? More often than not, I find that people are just hungry. They're not feeding themselves. They're not nourishing their body well. So if you rule out hunger first and you're still using food to cope, then we need to talk about other options. So many times, you guys, I work with women and we'll go through coaching programs together, and finding food freedom is one that I work one-on-one with women. And after like 12 weeks, they'll look back and their biggest aha will be like, wow, I was just hungry. I was just hungry and I had emotions. And that's so true. So we need to figure out, if you're hungry, and you're having emotions, you need to eat. If you're having emotions and you're not hungry, what can we do? What can we explore? Let's brainstorm together. So if you feel like you're having emotions and you're not hungry, again, put emotions in the comments. We can come back and we can have a chat. So when you tap into this and you realize that you have emotions and maybe you're not hungry and you need some other tools in your toolbox, it takes a while. You don't just all of a sudden become a master intuitive eater. I want you to know that too. It takes time, and there are going to be times when you still mess up. You still have emotions and you do turn to food, and maybe you're not hungry, okay? But I want you to get curious, because that's what's going to help further you along in this journey. Guilt and shame and not having compassion is only going to hold you back. So I want you to ask yourself questions, even though you mess up. It's not like you're going to immediately figure this out when you find another thing that you can add to your toolbox that's not eating to cope with situations. It's not like you wave the magic wand and all of a sudden you never emotionally eat again, or, you never eat when you're not hungry again. It's working. It's a work in progress. So interestingly enough, the first 3 editions of intuitive eating, when it came to the chapter on emotionally eating, they would say how to cope with your emotions without using food. That was how the older versions of the book, that chapter, what the title was. And there's a 4th edition now that is the latest edition that's out, and that chapter has been retitled, and it's how to cope with your emotions, or how to deal with emotionally eating by using kindness. So it's very different. It's learning how to cope with your emotions without using food, but also knowing emotionally eating is normal and how to cope with emotionally eating with kindness. Body kindness, I'm always talking about that in this group, you guys. You can cope with your emotions with food and also alternatives. So there's both, really. This is huge, and it's also relieving for a lot of people to hear. Again, I think I'd be lying. We'd all be lying if we sat here and said we haven't been through a situation where we have eaten food to cope with our emotions. None of us are alone in this. I do want to say, I think that diet culture, it's gotten its hands on this term, intuitive eating. And I'm seeing it out there a lot, you guys, trying to manipulate situations, saying like, you can lose weight and eat intuitively. Eating intuitively and learning how to tune into your body and learning about your emotions and learning about what your needs are, it is not a weight loss diet. So I want to be real frank with you on that and just let you know that it's not a weight loss diet, and you can't eat intuitively and count calories, macros, or be actively pursuing weight loss. So I want to reframe the idea of intuitive eating for you, especially in terms of eating emotionally. Let's focus on what intuitive eating is. Let's focus on behavior changes. Let's focus on how to respect your body. Learning to listen to hunger and fullness cues is so important in this work. And learning how to move your body in a way that you enjoy it. That's not punishment. That's really self-care. And it might look, I'm thinking about right now, like for me, moving my body, I think about what I want to do to move my body today, and it might be different than what I wanted to do yesterday, and it might be different tomorrow. So, again, like the meal plans, the old training plans that I used to like force myself to stick to for running. Maybe some of y'all are on some kind of fitness training regimen. It's different when you listen to your body. So that's what intuitive eating is, and it's focused on behavior changes. I want to talk about what intuitive eating is not to you, because I think this is super, super important. It is not a focus on weight loss. It is not beating your body up. It is not restriction. It is not control. It's none of that, you guys. A lot of times people are really hesitant to admit, and they'll tell me that, like, for instance, intuitive eating didn't work for me. And maybe it's because they were still really focused on intentional weight loss. So when I say intuitive eating is behavior changes, it's not that you can't have the desire to lose weight. And I want to let a lot of you guys that listen know that, because I have this conversation with women on the daily. It is okay to have that desire. And I fully expect, I mean, you wouldn't be here if you didn't have that desire to begin to learn how to be an intuitive eater, because that's part of the process. Otherwise, you would already be intuitive and you wouldn't have to work through that. What I'm saying is intentional weight loss shouldn't be the forefront of your mind. And if somebody says, intuitive eating didn't work for me, it kind of goes along with the thread that I had today in the group. I was asking you about your first diet and did it really work? And I think I had some conversations back and forth with a few of you, and someone said, Weight Watchers worked for me twice, but I had a small slice of birthday cake on my birthday, and basically my Weight Watcher trainer or whatever said that I'd blown everything for the week because I had my birthday cake. And y'all, so then I had to ask her again, well, did it really work for you? And her answer was no. So if you're saying intuitive eating didn't work, my question to you would be, maybe this whole intentional weight loss thing is not working for you. And maybe we should shift our focus. Like I say this in the group all the time, let's have a fresh take on health. You aren't the problem in this scenario. Diet culture is the problem. Diet set us up to fail. And 2/3 of the people gain the weight back plus more weight than even when they started. So even though basically I see a lot of people, I guess I want to say, doing intuitive eating through the lens of a diet. A big, huge example of this is Noom, you guys, and it's not going to work. I want you to separate weight from your worth. Intuitive eating has nothing to do with your weight at all. I want you to think about what life would look like for you, okay? If you didn't care about the size of your body for just a minute, pretend you don't care about the size of your body and think about what life would look like for you. What if you could still take care of it, still nourish it, still move in a way that feels energizing and feels good to you? What if you could do all of that from a place of self-care? I mean, what if you were not thinking about weight loss, how many calories you have left in the day, how many steps you need to get to your total goal for the day? Can any of you guys relate to this? And if you do, let me know. Just say yes in the comments. Intuitive eating is not eating ice cream all day, every day. It's not eating pizza all day, every day. Sometimes people think intuitive eating is, just throw all inhibitions to the wind, right? Just start eating everything. And that's not what it's about. It's about learning how to give yourself permission to eat those forbidden foods that have been on your list. But throwing all inhibition to the wind and just eating all the donuts and the pizza doesn't feel good. So I want to bring it back to that too. So tuning back into your body and into your feelings. So what if we made emotionally eating work for us in a way that instead of beating ourselves up, we got curious about it to learn more about ourselves and why we're doing the things that we do. In the permission stage of the framework, my program, Finding Food Freedom, is there's 5 stages. In the permission stage of the food freedom framework, you're working to give yourself permission to eat these foods that were scary or that you didn't let yourself have in the house. Probably a little bit more indulgent than, what's on the diet food list. And I want you to know that this is a normal part of the process. But if you aren't doing this with a professional, someone that knows what they're doing, it can feel really overwhelming and it can feel really out of control. This piece, if you're trying to give yourself permission, it can feel like it didn't work, that sort of thing. You can freak out because this is a difficult part of the process to navigate through. It helps to have a professional coach you through this piece. But there's this misconception out there that intuitive eating is just the donut diet. And it's not, you guys. It really is not. I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I love a donut, but it's not. I know donuts are one of the top demonized foods. You can have a donut. And it's just about deciding what it is you really want. Like, do you want a donut or do you want a salad? And either one's okay. Do you want pizza? It's making those choices. Because with intuitive eating, when you're saying yes to the salad or yes to the pizza, you're saying yes because deep down it's rooted in the choice that you really want that. So that's the difference in that and a diet. Not because it's on your clean eating plan. You're saying yes to it because you truly want that food. Food freedom is when you say yes to the salad because you want the salad, not because it's on your plan, not because you ate 5 donuts last night and you have to make up for it. Can anyone relate to this? Because I know I have in the past. I know there's people in this group that can relate to this. And I want you to know, lastly, before we wrap this up, we're 28 minutes in, that intuitive eating is possible for everybody. It's so much more freeing than diets could ever be. And on that note, I realize there is a lot of control in tracking your weight every day and tracking calories and having that sense of control. And this can feel very out of control. And that's why I'm here to help. But I would challenge you to, if this is you and you kind of are a person that likes control, I would challenge you to think differently today. And this is my challenge. What if you could just let go of that control and let your body just be? Just be for a minute. Whatever, wherever it is that your body is meant to settle. Whether that's higher, whether that's lower, whether that's the same. Your life will be so much more fulfilling at that point than it ever was on a diet. And I know that some of you might be listening and this is hard for you to believe, but I want you to trust me on this, even if it's just 1%. Because if you do, there's going to be a time when you're eating intuitively and you'll be able to say yes to that salad, or you'll be able to say yes to that pizza, Or you'll be walking downtown in the summer and you'll say yes to the ice cream, whatever else you desire. And you're going to be able to think about other things besides how many calories are in that food or whatever else, what points, how many macros, because life is so much more than what we put into our body and how we move our body. It really is. It's so much more. Let's bring it back to emotions and emotionally eating, because we're rolling up on our monthly workshop for the Food Confidence Club, and we're diving deeper into emotionally eating. So if you could relate to any of the stuff we talked about today on emotional eating, if you typed emotional and you struggle with this, I want to invite you to join us. We technically close the doors on Friday, but let a couple stragglers in over the weekend, and I'm going to extend that to you because we just had this chat on emotionally eating. And if this is something you're struggling with, by all means, join us in the Food Confidence Club and come to that workshop tomorrow night. I've got a workbook for you guys. And what we're really going to hone in on tomorrow night is we're going to expand on this if you're truly an emotional eater and where you fall in that spectrum. And I want you to be able to identify, okay, like this is a dangerous point for me. Like, what can I do? And we'll work on together afterwards. We watch about a 25-minute video, and then we spend the other 40 minutes working through our workbooks. I answer questions and coach you guys through this process to give you some tangible things to take away with you from this workshop. So I hope you guys, let me put a banner up for you guys. So this is the last day. And if this is something that you're interested in, please join us in the Food Confidence Club and join us tomorrow night as we have our monthly live workshop. If you're interested, all you have to do is put "Eat Happy" in the comments, and I will get you the link to join us. Bye, guys.